Yesterday, a funeral service was held for Savopoulos, 46-year-old, his wife, Amy, 47, son, Philip, 10, and, of course, there have also been funeral services for their 57-year-old housekeeper, who is Veralicia Figueroa. And there is one person now in jail in connection with the heinous crime that occurred at that house in the District of Columbia. The murders followed by a fire, and that is a guy by the name of Darren Dillon Went, currently in jail, 34 years old. Joining us on the line right now is Robin Ficker, a man who has in the past represented Darren Went, and we appreciate you joining us here this morning, Mr. Ficker.
Thank you. You know, the U.S. Attorney's Office has said that other people were involved, but all they've done is hoist one head on a pole. Well, they've made no progress whatsoever.
Hold on a minute.
In looking at the insiders who knew that the victim could dispense large amounts of cash.
Robin,
this is
hold
the same U.S. attorney.
Turn him down.
We got to be able to ask you a question.
Robin, this is not going to be one of those situations where you take the podium and run with it. Can we ask you some questions? Is that going to be okay?
Sure, but I want to point out that
you'll get your chance. Robin, I'm going to ask you some questions. If you're going to answer the questions, this will be fine, and then we'll let you make your point. Can I ask you a question?
Sure. What's the question?
Here's the question.
What is your current
relationship with Mr. Went? Because you have represented him in the past.
I represented him in 6 cases. He was not found guilty in any of those 6 cases.
All right. I got another question.
I haven't finished.
Have you talked?
I was retained by the family to go down and talk to him in the jail, convey their love to him, and see how he was doing. And I visited with him for 2 hours.
Do you currently represent him in any way in this matter?
I am not in this case. I have not been retained in this case. However, I'm meeting with the family again on Wednesday.
So do you anticipate that it may turn into a formal relationship?
It may.
Okay.
It may not.
Thank you. I just needed to get that on the record before we started. Now
No, I don't want to mislead anybody.
Well, I want to ask you. You are actually making the case that you don't think, despite the fact that the man's DNA was found on pizza crust inside the house, that he is in any way related to the murders that have taken place.
Look at the timeline here. Okay, the pizza was delivered outside the house at a certain time. They know when that was. They also know through the forensic experts exactly when these folks died, these folks, the victims of the horrendous crime. There's a huge difference, a huge gap in these 2 times. Just because I leave my DNA someplace at a certain time doesn't mean I commit a quadruple murder much later.
Oh, all right. Let me ask you this. You just said that you spoke with him for a couple of hours. What's going on there? I mean, is he proclaiming his innocence to you? He hasn't said anything to anyone that we're aware of. Does he have an attorney yet? What's happening with Darren Dillon Went?
The public defender is representing him today. My impression of him is the same as it was when I represented him in court. He's a very nice guy. This is a very nice family. So is his mother, brother, and sister. He doesn't swear. In 2 hours, he didn't say one swear word. He's a very nice person who speaks well. He's not a street
he hasn't been arrested for public profanity. He's been arrested for a quadruple murder. If he's in listen, I look at people's behavior. If my face was plastered all over the television and I was a wanted man and accused of a crime, and I was innocent of it, I wouldn't flee the way he did. What was that? Why didn't he immediately go to authorities and say, "Hey, I'm the guy they're talking about, and I'm innocent. I want to cooperate. Let's go"?
If the mayor held a press conference right next to your photo and you were called a murderer, don't you think you'd look a little askance at going in and talking to the same people that were proclaiming you were murderer?
No, actually,
I didn't have anything to do with it.
Not at all. And I would have an attorney. I wouldn't. Here's what I wouldn't do, Mr. Ficker. I wouldn't jump into a car and do a caravan across multiple states and have to get pulled over in the middle of the night with a helicopter swirling above my head. That's the act of a guilty man, isn't it?
And furthermore, it was proclaimed he was armed and dangerous, and there were no arms at all, no guns, no knives, and he was rather passive. So that was a big lie too, wasn't it?
Wasn't money found in the car? One of the cars?
Not in his car. It was found in another vehicle. If you're going to kill some people and take money, are you going to let the money that you get from killing these people be in a different vehicle with other people?
Wait, so you acknowledge that the money was in fact in the car. So he has some connection.
No, it wasn't in the car. It was in the box truck, and he was
No,
not in the
I understand.
box
No,
truck.
excuse me. Let me finish what I'm saying. It was in the other car. It was in the other car that was part of it, full of his, associates. So he knows something about this crime, right?
Well, apparently you think you do because you're presuming him guilty when he's presumed innocent.
Excuse me, Mr. Ficker. I didn't say anybody was guilty. What I just said was he's got to know something about this crime because, and you just acknowledged the money was in the second car as part of this caravan that came all the way down from Brooklyn on this manhunt. So he's got to have some information, right?
Who's to say that's the same money that was dispensed from the business of the deceased?
You just said that.
It wasn't marked.
You just said that.
It's not like a bank robbery where everything is marked with red dye.
All right. So do you think you're going to be retained as his attorney, Mr. Ficker?
It's possible.
You would take the case?
These are wonderful people. It's a small country, British Guyana, 750,000 people, about the size of Kansas. It's the only English-speaking country in South America.
Hold on, you're not representing the nation. Yeah. I'm talking about Mr. Wint. Would you take the case if he said, "Please, Mr. Ficker, defend me"? Would you take the case?
Of course,
you would. Okay.
And furthermore, I've met many British Guianans since this case got started because it's a close-knit community, and they know that this company was dispensing large amounts of cash. The authorities ought to look after that.
Okay. Well, we're going to leave it right there. Robin Ficker, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for being here this morning, and let the record reflect none of our questions in any way should be suggested as casting aspersions on the fine nation of British Guyana.
Yeah, we would never want to do that.
We were not going after British Guyana.